flag? Did we bring the
it out
flag?
of my car and run out there and get it real quick.
Yeah, that's right. We'll pretend it's over there. I forgot to remind you to bring it. Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Good morning. Believe it or not, we are in the early stages of our legislative session, so I really don't have a lot. I picked this day, and I probably should have did the March one because I would have a lot more to tell you, but at any rate, I can always come back. So I didn't bring anything about our supplemental budget, the supplemental budget is all the way up until June of this year, and then we're gonna start voting on the bigger budget. So I was elected again to the Women Caucus. I was elected in 2013. At that time, we had 55 women in the legislature, and now we have 81 women. I am so happy about that. That's both in the House and the Senate. Also this year, they had me to do the invocation at the Eggs and Issues. That was January the 12th. You guys know that is about 1,500 to 2,000 people, so that's probably, I want to say, the largest crowd that I've probably spoken in front of. And we sat on the table with Rassenberger, and then the governor was elbowed to us, and then the mayor. So myself and Farrell was there with a large group of people, but they asked me to do the invocation on behalf of the Women Caucus. So I think that was very good. It was good exposure for the Women Caucus in the Georgia legislature. This year I have 5 bills. I have a paid sick leave. Those of you know that probably about 2 years ago we gave all state employees paid sick leave. So what I did was went back to the legislative council and said, hey, if we can do this for the state, we should be able to do this for all of the employees in the state of Georgia. So it's HB 78, and it's a paid sick leave, and it requires all employers to implement paid sick leave for employees. Any employees that are working 30 hours a week will accumulate paid sick leave. I also have another bill, which is HR 110, which is a House Study Committee on Election Integrity. What this bill will do is that, we had Senate Bill 202 to come out. So what this bill will do is that we will wait until an election cycle happens, and then we will come back with legislation, because every year, if we don't, then we're going to keep on seeing legislation come out every year on election. And so this bill will just basically say, let us study what occurred with Senate Bill 202. We don't know what worked, what didn't work. We're hearing things from county elections, but let us study this and see what happens. And then after the election cycle, we come back and we make all this legislation changes. So that's all that bill does. All of this is what I said I was going to do when I went back to session this year. I also have about 3 bills on marijuana. I have one for decriminalization for anyone caught with an ounce or less. That bill is drafted, but I've had to go back and forth and work on that. And I also have another bill, which is the resolution that was passed by President Biden, saying that anyone that's held in prison for simple possession should be released through the Board of Pardons and Parole. So the legislation we had to go back and forth because Legislative Council was trying to put it in the hands of the Attorney General. So I had to go back and remodify that one a little bit. So that's the reason why it hasn't been filed yet, so it doesn't have a number, is because I'm back and forth to try to make sure I get that language right. I also have like a resolution for marijuana, and this is one that would be put on the ballot. I had it put on the ballot, on the Democratic ballot this last election, and overwhelmingly it was about 80% of Georgians who said that they want to have marijuana legalized. So now I'm trying to bring this forth to the whole state. So it'll be on the whole entire ballot for the Republicans and the Democrats, So the voters can make that decision of whether or not to legalize marijuana. What I put in there, is that the funding will be distributed for educational needs based. Those of you know when we say education needs based, that is for those students that are in college, and it's not going to be covered by scholarships, or it's not going to be their fee. They may have some money left over, like $1,000, $2,000 that they owe. It may be for their room and board, it may be for books, but some students in the state of Georgia, they have dollars that they still need to have so that they can continue to stay in college. So that's what we're saying when we say needs-based. So that's what that would be for. I've also made sure that it would be for salaries for like staff in the daycare. Our daycare workers, we're seeing a lot of daycare teachers leave. They're not paid, they're barely paid minimum wage. So we're always concentrating on K through 12, never concentrating on the daycare. That is the first place that most of us as parents are gonna have our children, in the daycare. And so that's where I always concentrate on the daycare, so that will help pay for some of those funds for daycare workers. Also, I put in there for it to have mental health programs and also addiction programs. So that's where I have the funds going to. So now we will work on the actual bill, because that's just a resolution. So now we got to work on the bill, which would be very thick. So that one is forthcoming too.
So you filed the resolution?
No. No, I got to have the bill too. I got to have that one, because just filing the resolution and I don't have a bill. So these things require a lot of time to work on. And I was getting to my next part. I have 2 staff. So Farrah is working in there full time. You guys see him looking tired today. We are very extremely tired, and I'll go a little forth and tell you a little bit more. But so I have him, and then I also have a person that is it's a young man that has worked with me in the past. He is a policy analyst, so he's the one that's in my office every day. We're going through different policies on what I want to have in there, what I want to have drafted. So he's the person that's in there helping me write it. He is a political science major that graduated from Georgia State. So he's really excited, because some of the legislation that you see coming forth with the marijuana is stuff that myself and Farrell started working on, and now he's taking that up. And so he's doing the research to look and see what they're doing in other states, and that's what we're kind of making sure that the legislation have all that information in there. I also have a young lady who comes from Georgia State, and her name is Ashley. She works with me for the Women Caucus, so she's also in the office. The Women Caucus pay for that. And then when we get to the local legislation, they've changed the rules as it relates to the local legislation. For those of you that don't know, we have 4 members that are in the House. We have a newly elected person this year. So it's 3 Dems, 1 Republican that's in the House, and then we have 3 members from Douglas County that is in the Senate. So that makes 2 Republicans and 1 Dem that is in the Senate now. So they kind of changed the rules a little bit. It says that if you have anyone in your local legislation, like it could be 1 person that chooses not to sign off or approve, and they have opposition about local legislation, then it's still going to require that it be signed off by the chair, which I am the chair of the Douglas delegation. And then if it's not any issues, then it just go forth. Otherwise, it's going to have to come into a committee, and then we go back and forth about what we think we should have, not have. So we really want to make sure that if we're doing any type of local legislation, that we're all in agreement with it from a House side. Now, the good thing about it is that if we file something, the House can file theirs separate, and the Senate can file theirs separate. So it's not like the Senate can hold us up, and it's not like the House can hold the Senate up. We have a new speaker this year, and so it's actually been very refreshing. So I've had a lot of communication with the new speaker. Probably will set up a meeting very soon to kind of just go in and meet him. So it's been some challenges as we relate to our individuals in our minority leadership and then the new speaker, because this year we had 45 new people coming into the House. Lots and lots of new people. So we're seeing some seating changes on the floor. We're seeing individuals in different corner offices and offices moved around. So that challenge was in the very beginning of legislative session. So all of that has happened and occurred. Everybody's in their seats. Everybody's in their seats on the floor, and everybody's in their seats in the offices. That first week, when you're a new person coming in, you really don't have an office. So you're just kind of, for at least about a month, at least the whole month of January, you don't have an office. So now that it's February, most people should have their seats, most people should have their committees. I didn't go over and tell you guys, but I'm on a new committee. I'm on appropriations. So I wanted to be on either that or this other committee, and they put me on that one. So this one is I'm on the subcommittee for education. Every day or every other day, there's somebody waiting in the office to try to get more things added to the budget for education. And we will meet next week. On Monday, we'll meet from about 3 to 5. So it's very, very busy. I'm still on banks and banking. I'm still on motor vehicle. Every week we have a bill coming motor vehicle. Every week we have a bill coming banks and banking. And now that I'm on this subcommittee, and so Farrah is like really tired because we have to keep up with everything now that's coming into my committee. So a day before we have to read up on the bills that are coming to my motor vehicle. Day before we got to read up on the bills that are coming to my banks and banking, and now with me being on the appropriations, I have to make sure that I'm in line with everything for education. And those individuals that know I'm on education, I'm hearing from everybody about that budget. That's pretty much all I have. I wish I would have brought some things about the supplemental budget, but what's going to be really interesting is what would be put in the budget for this year for 2024. They are giving out salaries. The salaries is going to be $2,000 to educators all over, and I believe it's going to be all state employees, not us, but all other entities of the state will get an increase of $2,000. That's all I have. I guess if you guys have any questions for me.
Is that
Fran?
across the board? State?
Yes. And every entity.
I used to work in the state, and I didn't do the raise for like 7, 8 years while that's a lot of the reason why I went ahead and retired, because they refused to give us raises.
It's in the
So I'm
budget.
glad to hear that.
What's the latest on the runoff situation? They're gonna.
So, this year, they don't have the special committee on election integrity. That's the one that I was on. Now everything goes back to government affairs, and what they've done is they have like a subcommittee called the election under government affairs, and that's what goes in there. I'm hearing a lot of talk about the runoff. So I know there's another election bill that will be in rules next week. But I have heard from some of the county officials, and I just want people to know that there are some of the county officials that are saying that the runoff was very extremely, even though they did it, it was difficult. It's a short period of time to prepare for a runoff. Now, in 2024, we're going to have the presidential election, and we definitely cannot have something like that. So I know it needs to be something to happen. So I know that they're pushing for something as it relates to the runoff.
Do you have any sense that the Republicans will join in some of your good initiatives? I mean, it's talk about bipartisanship.
Yeah, so I don't know, because I guess for me, I said that to somebody the other day, you know, how many people are interested in trying to see some legislation get through for marijuana, even though I'm hearing that, you know, the governor was, you know, receptive to having something happen to marijuana, sports betting. I don't really know. I think right now for me, I got to get that language right. And because there's so many other states across the, you know, United States that have legalized marijuana, I want to make sure that we're going to have the language that mirrors some of those states, but also this is going to be customized for Georgia, which is why we started with the resolution. Starting with the resolution is the easy part, because that being put on the ballot is a yes or no. now to get the actual bill is a real big thing. So, yeah. Because I want my policy analyst to kind of research and tell about the funding and the dollars that we can get in the state of Georgia if marijuana was legal. It's going to eventually come, I believe. It's just going to take some time and make it happen.
So, since you're sitting on the banking committee, is there any way to try to tie some regulations for at least, which would really improve things for people who, when the marijuana becomes legal, to change that so that people can use the banks, and that way it's a lot easier to keep up with, what they owe for the scholarships and so forth.
This bill is going to be large, which is why the policy analyst is still working on it. So we have to take the environmental piece in consideration. We have to take the banking, the money. There's that $10,000 raises a flag with the banks. So we're going to have to try to come up with all of that. We may not get everything in there, but we want to just have something that's going to be good to present with that resolution, that this is the way the dollars are going to be spent. So for me to come up with the ideas of the mental health, since I know we don't have Medicaid expansion, that will cover the addiction piece, that will cover the mental health, it will cover the education and needs-based. I'm sure there are other people that will want to have more things put in there with that resolution in that bill. So it's just really to get the conversation started on why we should legalize marijuana. One of the other things, I'm not someone who smokes marijuana, let's be clear. It is still illegal. It's still illegal, but where I'm at is trying to be a little bit more progressive because all the states around us are legalizing marijuana. All the states around us is decriminalizing marijuana. And so the way I'm looking at it is it's going to eventually come to Georgia. And I'm just trying to be on the cutting edge of that individual person, that if those dollars come into Georgia, that they're utilized in a certain way.
I'd like to commend you, first of all, looking at it, but also being aware of the pitfalls of it. People think marijuana, is great, but not understanding that a lot of it is laced with other drugs that becomes addicted and also cause death. So I think you're looking at other entities that have implemented it and looking at what went right and what went wrong would help in your efforts there. I know because I worked in that side of the world before I came outside of this world here, and seeing the impact of how drugs impact our communities.
I'm looking at the lace part too, because
that's one of the things we had issues with was the lacing and making it other than marijuana. Okay. The other thing I would get back to what Joel has said earlier about the election runoff, and you and I spoke briefly on that. To be cognitive, we talk about one thing over here, but we need to understand what they're trying to do in terms of the election runoff and being ahead of that rather than behind it. Because as you know, if they do pass that bill and they have a runoff where the person who receives majority of the vote, that means our candidate would not have won the last Senate election. So we need to be focused also on that as well.
yeah, let me go back to the lace. So I did some research around that, so I'm not really seeing or hearing a lot when it comes to the lacing piece of it, even though it may be occurring. I try to do my research around that too, because if you talk to any judges or anybody in law enforcement, that's one of the things that they say. So I'm trying to make sure that I'm being mindful also too, is looking at and seeing like some of those stats on if that is occurring, how that's occurring, all of that. I will say that when we talk about the street crimes, that a lot of that, I just want people to have an open mind that if we legalize that a lot of that crime and some of the things that you're seeing on the streets, that will go away.
I think too, when it comes to lacing, if you have a legalized, if you have like a dispensary you go to, that's gonna be safe marijuana. That's gonna be, so it's even more incentivized to legalize it, because if someone wants to get it, they're gonna go to a store, not to some guy on the street who may.
Correct.
Well, you also have monies being smuggled in under the radar that comes in the back door. That also put, I don't wanna, anyway, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So, we just have to be cognitive of a lot of things and make sure we do our due diligence and make sure that it's what it is. And looking at other states and what their things, what happened, what went right, what went wrong, and what you can do. So I
Yeah.
commend you on doing that.
Of course, yeah. I started having conversations with California probably about 2 years ago. I try to make sure I'm going to conferences. I'm trying to make sure I'm looking at other states and what they're doing. So we're all in the beginning stages of this right here. So I'm just trying to get this bill to make sure that the funding will go toward the areas that are missing and where there's gaps in the state of Georgia, which is the education needs base, the daycare centers, and then the mental health and addiction.
I wanted to ask, and I don't feel a need to preface that I also don't smoke marijuana, but I understand the importance of it for people that need it for medicinal purposes.
Mhm.
But my question is in regards to the business side of it. I did research a little bit ago in regards to the businesses that are and the criteria necessary for people to start a business in dealing with cannabis. And the criteria are like far-reaching, right?
Yeah.
So that, I think there are only 2 businesses or 2 companies in the state of Georgia that was able to meet the criteria. It's like $250-some-thousand.
Yeah, that was for the cannabis oil.
How are you
And-
all addressing those
yeah.
things to make it more accessible for people
Now,
to be able to start
This
businesses?
would,
Is that something
this
that-
would be totally different. It would be like California have, like you can have $1,000. So anybody should be able to have that and to participate. So we're looking at that part too. But that's the cannabis oil. And I will tell you that a lot of elderly people take cannabis oil for different things. So that is very widespread when we talk about the cannabis oil. Also, I always like for people to keep in mind, we're talking about something that grows in the ground, as opposed to painkillers that, you know, is being prescribed and more people are dying from those painkillers. When you think about that, as opposed to marijuana. Michelle and then Ingrid.
So is that something that you all will address down the road in regards to the cannabis oil and how?
So that has already been addressed. They have a commission. The commission is giving out 2 large contracts, and then there's 5 smaller contracts, and it is a little expensive. I did a presentation at one of the cannabis conference on that and told them. So everybody knows they had to go back to that same commission because they selected someone down in Florida, and there were individuals that were here and they weren't in agreement, so they had to go back to that. So they have completed that. As a matter of fact, I saw a bill that would be in rules, I believe, next week. It's a bill to basically say that commission panel, that they should have the open meetings because, you know, the meetings were closed. And so that this is a bill that I saw where they're saying that there should be open meetings for, and their records should be available for anybody that wants to see those.
Thank you.
So, let me preference by saying that I only smoke for medicinal purposes. Anyway,
Thank you.
I know that I had put some environmental research towards your way, and so there's some of this clean energy and clean environmental money coming out of DC. Is there any way to kind of put that towards a study on the growth of marijuana and you know, how it affects the
I haven't
environment?
got that far yet, but they did have one for the, they had a commission, they had a committee this, in December, as a matter of fact. One of the Democrats had a committee where they're looking at the environmental piece and the waste of the cannabis oil. So that study was completed. So this is gonna be totally different. So once again, I'm still in the beginning stages. I do have the resolution, so now it's just working on the bill. And trying to see what signers I can get on there that, you know, everybody is not in agreement to marijuana being legal. So, you know, we gotta see those individuals that are interested in maybe signing on to the legislation.
And just a follow-up, not on that, but local legislation. Have you received any requests for local legislation from our
So we all meet, we met in, November, where we had a meeting with all of the elected officials. I think there was one, there's several, we get them from the county, the city, the education. So there's a lot that we get while we're sitting there the whole entire day. I know that there was one that came from our judge, probate judge, and she wants to have a tech fee applied. I am seeing across the counties, at least one came through this week, one came through last week. So this is something, when we see this, it is the organizations that are over our probate judges are telling them that they need to implement a tech fee. So that's not, that's a very common practice. There were several tech fees that were completed for other counties last year, the year before. I've seen them throughout the whole time. So it's just a fee that those probate judges use, like if they need it for software. So it's only $5. It's not going to generate a lot of money. I think maybe $700 that it'll generate for the county. One in particular, I think one of our judges wanted to do nonpartisan judges. Anytime that I start to see that, because it'll still come to my committee in a governmental coordination, anytime that I've started to see nonpartisan judges, nonpartisan school boards, and there are people that, depending on who you ask, that might be in agreement to it, that it should be nonpartisan. What I've seen from all of the committees and when legislation has been brought forth for nonpartisan races, it is because generally the demographics have started to change. I mean, so it's been fine all along, but then all of a sudden, when the demographics change, you will see people to come in and they want to have nonpartisan elections. For the judges, nonpartisan elections for the school board. You just start to see this a lot. I do know that there is a bill that is being generated for the solicitors and the DA, and they're trying to make those nonpartisan too. So that is a bill that is...
Locally?
It's not locally. That's not going to be a local bill. It's going to be for the whole 159 counties. So that's a bill, that's another bill that's out there.
Do you know that bill number?
I don't know the bill number. I did have it's probably on my phone. I had it so I can make sure you get that bill number too.
Is there a bill out there to take away all fees collected by elected officials, including whatever, different fees that they have for all 59 counties?
Well, what would that bill look like? I mean, because most people be targeting a certain, like either the probate judges, the clerks. I think there was something one time out there for clerks. I've also seen some additional things out there for the clerk, for them to collect more fees. So I don't know what that bill would look like, because what elected officials would you be targeting? It's usually specific to whatever that entity is. So what are you, anything particular? I'm just curious. Are you saying that you don't want fees taken from?
I didn't say I didn't want to ask, is there a bill, a pending bill out there? I understand there are some people proposing a bill to take away all fees, like in essence, side, I don't know what you call it, side fees or whatever, from elected officials, I guess judges or whomever, tax collectors, probate, et cetera.
Haven't seen that, no.
Okay, don't be surprised.
No.
And I guess that would have to include sheriff's offices.
Yeah, yeah.
I am hearing some things about the sheriff office.
Yeah.
That's coming locally, so there are different individual people that are reaching out about some of the things that are going on within the jails. And so I keep telling people, so a lot of times things will come to me as an elected official. There are things that, if they can go to their county commissioners, if they can go to their tax commissioner, if they can go to their sheriff, that's where they need to go. I am strictly for the state, and if it's something locally that we can do, then it still has to come from our commissioners signing off on it. We still have to go to those individuals. So if they just having an issue with something going on in the jail, you know, have a conversation with your sheriff. Like I would want somebody to come and have a conversation with me. I know, I understand. All I'm saying is that it's not really anything I can do unless it's something about their transporting and the state is paying for a transport fee. Now that is something that comes from the state. So if it's something concerning any state entity, yes. But if it's things that are going on inside the jails are overcrowded, individuals that have mental health are not, are put in with the larger population, those are things that we still gotta have a conversation about. And that's why it's important that when we have those meetings where we're meeting with our local elected officials, it's fine if there are individuals there from the public, or it's fine if they let us know, okay, these are the questions that I have. This is where I'm concerned at. I know that at one point in time there were individuals that were coming and they were saying that we have specific judges here and there are harsh sentences and harsh punishment as it relates to minorities. So those things we need to know if those things are going on. I mean, what I'm saying is some things are local, but also I would encourage people that if you're hearing certain things, please come to me and tell me, and the things that I can do something about, you know, with the state level. I'm more than happy, more than willing to listen to all of, you know, the citizens that have a concern, but also, you know, try to schedule those appointments to go in and talk to the sheriff. Try to schedule those appointments to go in and talk to your county commissioners, or either go to these meetings and, you know, tell them what your concerns are. The tax commissioner, you concerned about those fees? Yeah. Okay. Anything else? Okay, thank you guys, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Kim, and you are always welcome to return. So we have something on the agenda for March, but we will make time for you, okay? So please come back and tell us more about what's going on. Michelle, would you like to say a few words and catch us up on the school board?
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good to see you all. Zhao Sheng Hao. Good to see you. Yes. Our most recent meeting was February 6th, this past Monday, and we had a proclamation that honored D.T. Jackson for his contributions on the Douglas County Board of Education. First, for being the first African American elected to the board, and then for being the first African American board chair. We then had a presentation during our work session from Prisms, which is a virtual reality program that the board actually voted on about 2 months or so ago, that's going to address gaps in algebra and geometry. And we had an opportunity to put on these like headsets and had like these little hand things, virtual reality. And to really see what the children get to experience in the classroom. And the feedback that we got was that the kids were excited. They didn't try to pick up their phone during the class, and they're really learning. So we're looking forward to really being able to receive data to get feedback on what that looks like and how it's impacted our students, prayerfully within the next few months prior to the end of the school year.
Michelle, what kind of lessons are they getting on virtual reality at this point?
I don't remember all of them. Fractions, ratios, probabilities. There were the areas that are typically gaps are the ones that this virtual reality program focuses on. And I don't have it, but it is in our notes, in our meeting notes. We also had a presentation and an action item, which we voted on, from Amira Learning, and it was approved for all of our elementary Title I schools. And basically, it's going to address gaps in reading. So the 5 tiers of reading, the phonics and things like that, is going to address that. And we had a presentation on what that looked like for the children, and that was really good. And I'm excited to get feedback, or we're excited to get feedback in regards to that coming forward. And again, that's a pilot in our Title I schools, and from there, it'll be dispersed within our school system. Also, a question was asked in regards to middle and high schoolers, because we know that there are gaps, and that this particular program is going to address K through 2, But then also, we have a partnership with pre-K. So we're gonna use that in pre-K to address those early learning gaps with the pre-K children as well. But a question was asked in regards to middle and high schoolers, because even though basically that part of the education starts in elementary, there are still gaps in our middle and high school students. This program is geared towards K through 2, or the kindergarten through 2nd grade, but they're gonna try to see if there's something available for the middle and high schoolers that they can receive and they don't feel like it's below their level. Because sometimes kids like, this is kindergarten. I've had children tell me, like, this is kindergarten work, but it's stuff that they needed. So they're looking into that as well. It's the truth. We reviewed our minutes, our financial report for December, our roofing project for Chapel Hill, and basically our next meeting is going to be this Monday, February the 13th, where we'll approve those items. That'll be a short meeting. We have our workshop sessions the first Monday of the month, or the first of the month, and then our regular board meeting the third Monday of the month. And that's it. Does anyone have any questions, comments, or concerns?
What's that new facility gonna be open? That building?
The legacy.
I think, yeah, where they're gonna have the graduations and stuff.
Right. I didn't get an update on that. I can check that and find out for you.
I was kinda curious.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
The superintendent, I know he is superintendent of the state of Georgia.
Yes.
And where is the next process? Where is it now? Has it been decided?
Not yet. Actually, this is the 11th. I'm going to say about this week or next week, we should hear something in regards to that. He had an interview, I want to say about, he's one of 4 for the National School Superintendent of the Year Awards. And there were 4 of them that went and interviewed about 3 or 4 weeks ago. So we should be hearing something back, I want to say within this week or next week.
So he's already, just say for our recording.
Yes.
He is the state.
He is Georgia State School Superintendent of the Year currently, just now. So y'all can give him a round of applause for that. In a time where the gala is coming up in March, don't ask me the date. It's in my phone though. March 18th. So it's coming up March 18th, and that gala supports special needs fund that we have. Yes.
So I didn't mention it, but I plan on trying to honor him at the Capitol. I just requested his bio.
Okay. Thank you so much. Arrow.
Okay, I've been getting a lot of messages in the office about vaccinations, and I was just wondering if you've been getting any comments or parents calling you or anything like that about vaccinations.
I haven't, but we have on our website, I just finished what did I do? I did a community gathering this past Wednesday at Mirror Lake Elementary, where basically I went through the roles, our board norms, and protocols of our school system. And it was a great information shared. As usual, the turnout was low, but those that were there said that they were well informed and they appreciated it. We also went through our website, how to access certain things that are on there. Sometimes folks will use their phone, and we keep it, I'm gonna talk about me, I'll try to access things on our website and keep it like this. Sometimes you have to turn it to the side, for example, to really see and access all of the tabs. But on our website, under resources, and I'm trying to find an email that has that information that we have, but we have our, what is it called? We have our health center, our school resource health center that's at Burnett Elementary, where all of Douglas County students in the community can go for vaccinations. And there's a number, and I'm trying to find the email, I had it up, that you all can call, or even just find it on our website. And I think this is it. It is. It's our school-based family health center. And it would white out on me. It's at Burnett Elementary, which is 8277 Connolly Drive. And the phone number is, if you're looking for COVID-19 vaccination information, or just vaccinations, period.
Yeah, see, we've been getting emails where people are trying to get rid of vaccines altogether.
Oh, they don't want vaccines. You gotta clarify, Carol.
No, I mean, you know, that was good information also.
Yeah.
Yeah, that I was just wondering if you've been hearing any more chatter about that, because we've been getting a lot of messages. Yeah, a lot of messages where somebody's trying to make a push for getting rid of vaccines.
No, we haven't even discussed that as a board. It hasn't come to us. We haven't really been pushing that people need to get them. But what we do is if we have the resources and they're available for those that want them. So we have not been pushing it either way in our school system. But we do have, for those that want, we do have the resources on our campus. And I was just about to give you the phone number to find if they want it. 770-651-2273. That's 770-651-CARE, which is 2273. But we haven't been pushing it either way. Mask, all of that is still optional. Y'all see me, I still wear mine. So all of that's optional, and it's based on what the parent or the child chooses to do, based on their own level of comfort. Anyone else have any questions, comments, or concerns? Ingrid?
I just want to thank you for your years of service as the vice chair of the Board of Education. It's good. Since you're the only educator, professional educator on that board, having you there gives us a real sense of comfort, because we know that you're going to put the children first.
Thank you so much for the encouragement, you all. Nothing else? Thank you all.